Coffee. Coffee now!
I'm Gigi Arnetta with Tyranny Watch. Obamacare, the gift that keeps on giving. Congressman Tom Rice of South Carolina wants to bring Obama to court for not faithfully executing laws. The resolution allows the House of Representatives to bring legal action against the executive branch and challenge recent actions, inactions, and policies for abused executive power and for ignoring Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, which means he did not take care that the law be faithfully executed. The resolution calls for civil action on 4 main issues. First, President Obama recently announced an administrative fix in regard to canceled health care plans due to Obamacare without involving Congress. Secondly, over the summer, President Obama's administration announced a 1-year delay in Obamacare's employer mandate without involving Congress. Thirdly, last year, President Obama's administration granted temporary status to illegal immigrants who entered the U.S. as children without involving Congress. And in June 2012, President Obama's administration provided a waiver initiative for the welfare work requirement under TANF without involving Congress. Obamacare in Hollywood hit the social media platform with one new video spoof by a performer known as Alpha Cat.
Healthcare, sign up because it's hot, sign up because it's hot, sign up because it's hot. I'm Commander-in-Chief and I'm 2 terms strong and I've got this healthcare which has got it going on.
And ESPN decided to air an Obamacare ad instead of a Catholic hospital ad because they found Jesus, God, problematic, like Obamacare isn't. While their media blitz ramps up, congressional staffers were warned Wednesday not to rely on information provided by the Obamacare Exchange website, even if they technically signed up. The emails tell them they don't have coverage unless they get a confirmation letter from the dispersing office. I'm Gigi Arnetta with Tyranny Watch on the Infowars Nightly News.
Nullification. The constitutional concept, most often forgotten in today's rule of law, has been reinvigorated by wins by people like Sheriff Nick Finch in Florida. Now the state of South Carolina is using nullification to oust Obamacare. Constitutional Sheriff Richard Mack, who is a nullification victor in his own right, talks to us tonight to tell us about nullification and how South Carolina can be successful. Thanks for joining us, Sheriff.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Always is a pleasure. Now, Sheriff, before we talk about the situation that's going on in South Carolina, can you tell us about nullification and your experiences with it?
Well, we've done that for many decades now. Sheriffs in Idaho have done it back in 2003. Sheriff in Eureka County, Nevada did it against the Bureau of Land Management, and even sheriffs in California have been doing it. I did it when I was sheriff back in the 90s. Sheriff Rogers has done it in Indiana. Sheriff Palmer has done it in Oregon. Sheriff Arpaio has done it somewhat in Arizona. Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. has done it in Milwaukee. Sheriff Finch just did a huge one in Florida, and he even got arrested for it, but he laughed at that and beat him at court. And so this is not anything new, and I certainly didn't create it. I helped push it along, and I'm kind of the messenger here about making it go bigger, better, and faster and more often. And when I sued the federal government back in the 90s when I was sheriff in Arizona, I guess that established a huge precedent, and it was a landmark victory for state sovereignty and for the 10th Amendment. And now we finally have other state politicians and leaders, specifically in Idaho, in South Carolina, that are paying attention to this and using it. To what I've said on your show several times is that this is the equation and the formula for stopping Obamacare or any other federal mandate that the states want out of.
That's exactly right, Sheriff. And you've been talking about this. You're an advocate for state nullification as well as many other people. We see now people like Ben Swan getting behind state nullification and others. But you're definitely one of the first people, or one of the more prominent people, I should say, to bring about this idea. So for the people who can't exactly wrap their heads around this, you have Obamacare, you have state nullification or nullification in general. How do these things two mix?
Well, they mix. They don't mix, and that's why you can stay away from it. It is oil and water, and the states have the authority through the 10th Amendment to nullify and stand against anything that comes out of Washington, D.C. that is contrary to state sovereignty. First and foremost, let me direct every one of your listeners and the people who pay attention to Infowars all across the country and perhaps the world. You've got to get a copy of my Supreme Court case. Now, at sheriffmack.com, you can pull off the entire case. It's there. Or at CSPOA, that's CSPOA.org, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association.org, CSPOA.org, you can get a highlighted version of the case so you don't have to go through the entire case, because I've already done that. And I put it in a little pocket-sized booklet. Now, everyone in this country needs to see this so you can see it for yourself, see the evidence, see the proof that this case does exactly what we are saying it's supposed to do, Jakari, and that is provide the states and counties and cities with the ammunition to do exactly what State Rep Tom Davis is doing in South Carolina through House Bill 3101, that is going to nullify Obamacare for the state of South Carolina. Every state can do it. Every county can do it. Every city can do it. Just start acting on what is already there. And right now we have a Christmas special on this. It's only 80 cents to get this little booklet. You should get dozens of them. Pass them around. I have an email right here from somebody else who is forwarding this information to all of their state legislators on an email blast. Okay, so let's make sure we know and understand what we're talking about here. The United States Supreme Court decision, when a couple of sheriffs sued the federal government and won, yours truly being the one who started that, says that the states retained, quote, an inviolable sovereignty, end quote. It also states this. Now, this is the big one being used by South Carolina. It states that the federal government may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program, end quote. Now, there's a lot of things about in this decision that supports that and substantiates that and completely corroborates what those principles mean. And, I mean, it says so much in here that you've got to see it. There's not time on your show today to discuss all these key points. So people need to get a hold of this, Jakari, and use it for the tool that it was meant to be. And I would also recommend getting the DVD set. We have everything marked off 50 to 70% for Christmas. Get the DVD set that's entitled Erecting the Barriers, because that's exactly what the states and counties and cities are supposed to be doing. This landmark decision spells it out, and it even tells you how to do it.
That's what you need.
Right from the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's what you need, somebody from experience. So you're telling them from experience how to go about these steps. So that definitely makes you an authority on that. And I do encourage our viewers to go out and get those pieces for themselves. Now, Sheriff, we have to move quick. I want to get your view on a couple of other topics. We see a lot of, I guess you would call it police brutality as of late. There's a situation in California, I believe in Sonoma County, where a young man was carrying a plastic AK BB gun. It had an orange tip. It seems like the officer approached the young man and somehow or other shots were fired and the young man ended up dead. Are you familiar with that case?
Yes, I'm afraid so, and others similar to it.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't believe that we're doing the proper amount of training to avoid those types of things. And we used to train about those things, where a deaf kid, is approaching you and he has his hand in his back pocket and the cop is yelling at him, stop, or I'm going to shoot. And the kid hands him out of his back pocket a card saying that he's deaf and dumb. And so we've got to get back to some real fundamental training. We've got to train our officers better than we are doing. And I think this is something that lands right on the lap of our law enforcement leaders in this country, our sheriffs and chiefs of police. We've got to do a better job with that.
Exactly. Now, Sheriff, how do you feel about tasers for noncompliance?
Tasers, were first introduced to law enforcement officers as non-lethal, but it's turned out that they have been lethal. And the officer who used it against a 72-year-old lady, and he's twice her size, he needs to get a new job. And the other officer who tased a 8.5-month-old, 8.5-month pregnant woman.
Wow.
He needs to get a new job.
Exactly.
And law enforcement community needs to better police itself, and we need to quit jumping the gun. Excuse the pun, but we need to quit jumping the gun on shooting situations, and we need to come down on officers who misuse lethal force, and we need to come down on this tasing. It's far too often, and it's just almost like boys with toys. We need to quit giving so many toys to these guys, because when you do, they're going to use them, and usually inappropriately. All
right. Well, Sheriff, that's all the time we have for today. Sheriff Mack, sheriffmack.com. Thank you for your time, sir.
All right. We'll see you later, Jakari. Thanks.
Thanks. If nullification sounds like a pretty good idea to you, you can stop by the Infowar shop and pick up Nullification, the Rightful Remedy. It's available in the Infowar shop. Pick it up today. And another thing you need to do today is stop by prisonplanet.tv. Now, normally it's a 15-day free trial, but for a limited time only, you get 5 months free, unlimited access. You can share this with your friends. You get the Alex Jones Show, the nightly news, the special reports, and so much more. And don't forget, when Obama Deception 2 comes out, it will be right there as well. So that's it for this edition of the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson, and we'll see you again next week.